Hey guys, Jen here. I hope everybody had a nice holiday. So this is going to be the second part of my testimony, and this is my reason for telling my testimony. It's not just for me, but we are told in ancient verse that we defeat the enemy through the word of our testimony and the blood of the Lamb. I know that some people don't understand when they talk about the blood of Christ, and it sounds archaic and all this type of thing and barbaric, but I will try to explain that the best way that I can at a later time. But that's why I do this. Also because we are also told to expose evils. Now what happens when we expose evils is that is like the diagnostics, right? When you take your car in to be fixed, you can't fix it until you know what's wrong. So the first step is to diagnose it. Diagnostics. When you expose something that's evil, you stop it in its tracks. Exposure is what this spiritual element hates the most. And please understand that my videos are a spiritual take or breakdown or defrag, as some people have called it, of the material world that is around us and the events that we're seeing take place. It is my way of trying to give back and use my talents or gifts or whatever to help other people. The reason I deleted most of my videos is because, number one, I think those who needed the information received it. The second reason is because now I'd like to reach some different people. It's obvious I have a lot of trolls, and that should make you wonder why such a small channel. I only had 1,800 subscribers after 4 years. Now, albeit the channel started as something different, so I've only been doing this type of talk for about almost 3.5 years. In March, it will be 3.5 years that I've been telling my testimony and all that. So this is the second part of my testimony. And the reason I'm doing this is because, number one, we have to understand that this was all planned in advance. Seems amazing, and it kind of is, that people could micromanage society in such a way where these things could be planned out years in advance. But let me tell you that that's all having to do with city planning. That's why certain cities are shaped and structured the way that they are. And when you visit different areas of the states, you see that they are very similar. This is why, because they can roll out a template and then process it in every district or area, and triangulate it to just that area, right? That's what I was talking about, looping an internet, making it an intranet just for one town or community. It's a very convenient and easy way to run a PSYOP, if you will. You don't have to believe me. I'm just here trying to do my part and trying to help in any way that I can. Also, I don't believe in exposing the person. Social media has brought out the worst in a lot of us, and I know this because I was one of those people. But when we expose, especially when we overexpose, right, we're constantly talking about other people or what they're doing wrong. Number one, we're not doing that inner work on our own self that needs to be done. And a lot of Christians and a lot of religious people do have this problem. They will look at others and say what's wrong with them. But again, trust that this was all planned in advance. These are all divisive tactics. And I'm not saying that God isn't real. Obviously, I love God. I love his creation. I love, the angels that are here to help us and watch us and guide us. But I believe we are facing a lot of adversity. And I also see an agenda going around. And I'm going to say right now, this is the Gnostic agenda or agnostic type of agenda. When they say there is no good, there is no bad, there's just experience. Well, what happens when you do that? You make everything acceptable. Misbehavior, misconduct, the harming of others, all becomes acceptable when you think of it, well, it's just their experience here. Well, they must have done something in a previous life to deserve this. That's rationalizing and justifying evil in my eyes, and in the eyes of God. And you don't have to argue with me. Read any ancient verse. Even the Egyptians knew, they had rules of conduct and how to treat each other. As much as YouTubers want to bash other faiths, most faiths have tenets that require the loving of thy neighbor. So I just want to get that out there. I don't hate anyone of any other faith. Everyone is welcome here. I don't hate anyone of any other gender or sexual orientation. And I'm going to get into that in another video because it is important and it is also an agenda. But I know what God's word says. And if you want to argue that, go ahead. I love everybody. I don't hate anyone. I've never been that way, and I'm never going to be that way. And people can say whatever they want about me, but remember, just because somebody says something doesn't make it true. You don't have to believe it just because you read it on a credible website even. It doesn't matter if it says it's credible. Look at the people where the information is coming from. What is their personal or private motivation for putting certain information out there? And trust that a lot of the information we receive is fed to us by these same people that we tell each other not to trust. Seems kind of counterproductive, no? The truth is out there. They have to put it out there. And you have to understand this is part of natural law. And you can say, well, it's karmatic reasoning is like Buddhist and this and that. Look, it says the same thing in scripture. It says what we reap, we sow. I have to say, I heard Kanye say that the other day, and I really liked that. People can say what they want about him, but remember that the media or even a regular person can clip certain things and words out of context and then post them up and make up whatever story or framework they want around a certain one sentence that somebody says. I can't tell you, daily I get judged by a single comment that I leave in a thread, especially if I use the word Christ or God, or I tell somebody I'm praying for them. Somebody told me that I had a dark spirit because I said that I wasn't food. They said, oh, it can't happen to you, blah, blah, blah. That's not what I meant. This is all about consent and natural law. And again, many faiths in religion understand what natural law is, and even the demonic have to obey that. Humanity is a little different. You see, we have free will. So we have to be manipulated into certain behaviors or certain groups or subcategories that they want to file us under, like an algorithm, okay? So they manipulate us. Understand that everything you see on any screen is part of an agenda. It's an agenda that channels like mine get covered up. It's an agenda that people like me have been targeted, and it started several years ago. It's been going on experimentally for years now. So these things are nothing new, but they are becoming more profound, and it is getting more visible. And they're making it very clear that Christianity, independent thinking, and anyone who goes against the grain, right, or is autodidactic, a self-educator, someone who seeks knowledge and information, these are all types of people who are going to be or are already being persecuted against, losing their job, getting reprimanded at work for using the name of God or for not wanting a certain cocktail in their arm at this time. This is all agenda driven, and it's not hitting just Christianity, okay? It's hitting anyone who they don't want to be part of this new utopic society. But is it going to be utopia? If you shut down one of the collective voices of society, is it truly utopia if not everybody is happy? And what makes me happy is not going to make you happy. So can you have perfection? I don't know if we'll ever achieve that. But anyway, I don't want this to be too long. I appreciate you being here. Now, what we're going to talk about, the reason I'm telling you about this is to expose evil, and so you know what to watch out for, signs around you, because next we're going to talk about consent, which is extremely, extremely important right now. I cannot stress that enough. So that's why I'm also going over this again, as far as, again, being, I already did this a few years ago, but looking back on it, I've learned a lot more about it. I don't expose people, though. I might, say, for the story's sake, I might have to say, how certain things happen, but I'm not going to expose people. So in the spring of 2018, after I'd had these dreams, or while this stuff was still happening, encounters, I call them now, because I woke up with physical indicators that things had happened while I was half conscious. And people, you have to understand, you see people worshiping these aliens now. I call them angels, tomato, tomato. On their t-shirts, going to these places and these locations where they might be able to find them or see something. Look, can we just be real and logical for a moment? Anything or anyone that comes into your home uninvited and takes you out of that situation of safety and protection and familiarity and does things to your body without your consent, pretty much without your knowledge, as your half conscious, because they don't want you to see the truth of what's happening around you. They want it to seem like a dream to you. Anyone that does these things, any being that does these things to another being, that's not benevolent. That's not good. Okay, that's bad. So these people saying, oh, they want to come here and help us. They want to upgrade our DNA. And, if we don't allow them to do this, we're not going to be able to compete in the world. We set the rules here. And this is why man was given domain over the earth and the animals. And believe me, that doesn't mean to dominate with an iron fist. That means to tend to care for. It's not easy to be a good leader, to have people and beings under your domain who rely upon you. We're supposed to be reliable and dependable to the environment and animals and other people around us. Is that how we're conducting ourselves? I'm just asking questions. And when it became a bad thing to ask questions, we should have asked more questions. And we should have stood up united. It's getting frustrated because I see that the agendas are working and I see that people are so easily manipulated. And I hope that most of the interactions I have online are with bots, because I can't believe people have become so cold. But it's not hard to detect when you're being monitored or when somebody is intervening in between, your messages and communications that aren't verbal. You know how people type. You know how they talk to you, especially people that you messaged with every day. You know if they use punctuations or not. You know if they use typos. You know what words they use. The same person. It's the same person behind pretty much everyone I message on social media, on Facebook. I've still tried to reconnect with some family, and I don't think I'm reaching them. I think there's a lot of, I don't think I'm the only one either. I'm not important enough to signal out. But I want to tell you what happened to me so that hopefully you will get an idea of what to watch for. Now, this is going to go a little longer than I wanted it to, so I'm going to wrap this up real quick. So in the spring, I was asked to go to Florida. I didn't understand why my neighbor was asking me to go. We weren't really close, but I thought maybe she wanted to get to know me better. And people had began saying things to me that didn't make any sense at the time. I'm like, why are they telling me that? So we were going down there, and as we're traveling, and for some reason we had to get there super quick, as we're traveling, she was explaining to me how hard she had worked to improve her life and where it was at this point, and that she had overcome some obstacles with, addiction and all this other stuff, and that she wasn't going to go down that road again. And it was strange to me because I'm like, okay, why is she telling me this? It's like she's almost apologizing for something or giving me a reason for something. Looking back, here's what I think about this, because she's not the only one who spoke to me in this way. After a lot of research and praying, it's been made to understand, as far as I understand it, that they have to tell you what they're doing. They have to put it out there because it has to be your free will that enters into this type of agreement. And they consider it agreement if you allow it to happen. They consider that passive consent, which I do not abide by. So I just want to get that out there in the universe for my own self. Speaking your truth is very important. Now you will see regular pastors, Protestant pastors and preachers speaking against certain declarations using I am. But there's a reason we're supposed to do these things. And it has everything to do with consent here. There's a reason we're supposed to expose evil and not just kowtow to religious leaders or political leaders. Christ was a rebel. I mean, I know that people don't see it that way, but he was a rebel, not against God, not against his mother and father, but against the system around him that was corrupt. That is why people hate his name so much. He offers you a certain type of freedom that you don't understand until you read at least some of his story, like Romans and John and Peter. These were revolutionaries of their time, of their age, and they were just regular people. They were not, at that time, anyone who was renowned or had popularity. So this woman took me to Florida, and she kept kind of apologizing, and she took me to a few of her relatives' house, which I couldn't even meet. She would go into a room with them. I sat with the kids. A couple of times we did this. Everything was really rushed. I felt like her one cousin gave me an interview of sorts. It was very strange. And I'd never been to Florida, but it was empty. It wasn't even as populated as when I visited downtown Pittsburgh on a slow day. I found that very odd, and I found it very strange also that certain spots of Florida look a lot like what they tell us is Israel in the news and such. You have to watch for this. Most people don't even know what stock footage is anymore. You have to understand that